I shot my first feature film with less than $2,000. Here's how it happened. I love movies.
I love movies.
And if you're watching this video, then there's probably a good chance that you love movies too. And for as long as I can remember, I've always wanted to be involved in making movies in some way, shape, or form. Check this out, check this out. Boom! That's the height of innovation back in 1992, I tell you what. So this is actually the very first camera that I tried to shoot something on. Emphasis on tried, because for those of you who don't know, these old VHS cameras came with these nickel cadmium batteries, which I think they use them for like portable drills or something like that. But the thing about them is if you don't use them enough, they start to permanently lose their charge. So this thing came out in 1992. For reference, I was born in 1999, so these things were long past their prime. And what would happen is I would go out, I'd try to shoot something, and then I'd press record. It would record something for like 2 seconds, and then whole thing just shuts down. You know, I actually did end up shooting something on almost this exact same type of camera, like years down the line. But that's a story for another video, I'd say. But still, even though I didn't manage to shoot anything on this, just the feeling of running around on my uncle's farm, playing around with the zoom and the filters and stuff that you had on here, something in my brain just clicked. Like, yeah, this is what you're supposed to be doing. So yeah, that thought definitely stuck around in my mind. And I started getting into acting. And slowly but surely, I started getting involved with more school plays and these little skits that some buddies and I would make with just like our phones and whatever cameras they had available. Until finally, on my 18th birthday, I got my first quote-unquote real camera. En toe was jy al los. This is the Canon 1300D. It's about as basic can come. So this was the definition of an entry-level camera. There was no autofocus, there's no touch screen, the screen doesn't even flip out actually, it's just there. You're looking at 1080p and 24 and 25 FPS. If you want to get slow-mo, you can get slow-mo, you can get 50 FPS at a crisp 720p.
Are you okay?
I'm fine, I just threw up in my mouth a little bit.
And yeah, that's pretty much all that this thing offered, which I think is a good thing, thinking back on it, because I kind of had to teach myself how to do all of those like less than ideal manual things when it came to shooting video. You know, racking your own focus, setting your own white balance. And I think in the long run, having this type of camera as, you know, my very first camera, it actually prepared me to take on more serious cameras as I leveled up in terms of my video making skills. But when I first started making movies with this thing, a lot of the movies that I shot with this thing were blurry, they were dark, they were shaky, they were out of focus. Pretty much everything you don't want your movie to look like, I ended up shooting it like that with this. But the more I started shooting and finishing films with this thing, the more I picked up skills in terms of lighting, in terms of framing. I became a better shot, like my hands became steadier when working with this thing. And, you know, my work just started getting progressively better. Now, at this point, I was pretty much dedicated to directing. Partly out of necessity, because it was a lot easier to find people to, you know, play parts in your movie than it was to find somebody who's going to say, okay, I'm taking full responsibility for how this thing turns out. And also partly because I just already had a very strong vision in my head in terms of what I wanted any specific project to look like. I then took inspiration from some of the big names in the industry, you know, like Robert Rodriguez, Quentin Tarantino, and I started to learn how to write and edit and grade and light my shots just so that I wouldn't be reliant on any specific crew member to do something for me. I wanted to be able to take everything on by myself. And eventually, after having quite a few short projects under my belt, I started wondering, okay, this is cool, but when am I gonna start making my first real movie? So then I took a look at some of my favorite directors to see at what age they got their feature debuts. And then, as expected, the age ranges varied quite a bit. You had some people who started at 19, some people at 35, and eventually I settled on 25, which is the age that Quentin Tarantino was when he started making his first feature, My Best Friend's Birthday.
He is really strong and really mean and really jealous.
So I had a deadline. I wasn't gonna aim for 90 minutes because I felt like I needed to work my way up to that. And as the old saying goes, the longer a movie is, the better it has to be. In my eyes, anything that was over 60 minutes, which is already a decent chunk higher than the 45 minutes that the Academy defines a feature film as, would be more than enough for me. So I wrote a script. And another one. And another one. And another one. Until I finally settled on this. And guess what? We wrapped! With a sub $2,000 budget, we wrapped on my very first feature film. So, join me as I walk through every step of this crazy adventure that I've taken so far. The highs, the lows, the gear, the post-production process, everything. I'm gonna be honest, I've never done a project this big before, so I have no idea what's coming up next. All I know is, we're gonna be going through it together. I'm Chris, I make movies, new videos every week. Have a good one.